I'm not a nurse. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a nurse.
No, you're not.
I'm Whitley Strieber. We are about to take an unusual journey into a realm seldom traveled as we explore stories of one man's experiences with what we call the visitors. Before we begin exploring the unknown with these stories, we need to remember that nothing in our experience can be too far removed or impossible in this incredible and amazing journey we all share, called life. Mark is a man with lifelong experiences with the unknown. In this series, he will share with us an honest accounting of what has happened to him. In doing so, he represents thousands, if not millions, of people across the world that have had or may have the same experience. Tonight, we will start where it all began for Mark. His first memories of the visitors entering his life.
I remember very well the first time this all started. I was only 7 years old, sleeping in my cozy bed in our San Francisco flat. My bedroom was part of an old San Francisco house turned into 2 flats years ago. We lived in the lower level flat. It was a cozy old building that was once a Victorian house, now modernized. As I sleep soundly, I had no idea what was about to happen to me. The most important experience of my life, and that it has been. Something totally unknown and strange was about to make itself known to me and forever change how I view reality. My life at this point had been average for a boy growing up in the 50s. My parents both worked and I went to school. I was an only child with no brothers or sisters. I had a large bedroom to myself that looked towards playland and the ocean. My interests were different than most kids my age. I had my eyes on the stars. I loved astronomy, art, science, and music. I still joke today that my first football was a telescope. I always wondered when I looked up at the night sky what was out there. This night, I would find out. The next thing I knew, it was morning. I felt panicked, remembering what had happened, but beyond the point of that creature's face, I couldn't remember anything else. Not even how I got on the rug. Could remember that I was so scared that night that sometimes I would sneak in to sleep on the bed with my parents. I was afraid of the lightning people. At least that's what I remember my mother telling me. That's what I called them. She told me I was just having nightmares, that big boys didn't sleep with their parents. So when I was so scared, I would sneak in and sleep on the rug. I know today what was happening to me then. But when I was so young, this was all new. It was hard to know what was real. Who were these beings? My heart told me it was real. I was frightened and so curious at the same time. I grew up in a family of artists, scientists, and intellectuals, and that allowed me a scientific interest and perspective, even at that age. But I was afraid to talk about it. I was afraid of what people would think of me, so I decided right there to keep it to myself. For how long, I didn't know. But one day, many years later, I would talk about it.
Thanks, Johnny. Hey, welcome back. We have a great show tonight. Very, very special show tonight. We're going to be talking about UFOs and aliens. Now, there's been a lot of buzz in the media lately with a couple of folks that have had extraterrestrial encounters, if you will. And we got a panel of experts and skeptics. And our first guest is a man who claims that he had been abducted as a child. Let's please welcome Mark Neal. Mark, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Have a seat.
My brother.
All right. Too soon for that?
Never too soon.
Okay. Listen, I got to tell you, I've been reading this. Let's get right to it. I've been reading this stuff, and it's really kind of totally unbelievable. Let's start with aliens. I mean, why are aliens here? If they were here, why don't we know about them? Does the government know about them? They've been hiding. What's in it for them?
Well, I didn't say they were aliens. You said they were aliens.
He's absolutely right. I did say that. I made that up, I think. So if they're not aliens, what are we talking?
Well, I honestly don't know. If I were to say that they were aliens, it would be pure conjecture on my part.
Okay, sir. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to where you first had an encounter, that you had a first experience with this.
I was 7 years old.
That's a great story. Is there any more to it?
I was asleep in my room. I woke up one night to this weird I started to hear a voice inside my head, like a woman's voice.
A woman's voice, like Golda Meir.
This voice told me that they weren't going to hurt me. And then I started to see this being.
Well, what did it look like?
Well, I actually brought an illustration.
Oh, you brought an illustration. Johnny, can you pull that up on the monitor so we can all see it? Oh, wow, that's gnarly. Whoa, that's frightening. That's what you saw? That's ugly. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but.
I didn't think so. I thought she was beautiful.
Really?
Eloquent even, highly intelligent. She touched me and then I blacked out. The next thing I knew was morning.
Okay, well, I could do a whole half hour on she touched me. Wow, okay, so you've been having those experiences that you just described, you've been having those your whole life. Did you ever consider that maybe they were a dream or some illusion created by a chemical imbalance or a mental illness?
Sure, I've considered all those possibilities and I've always come up empty-handed. I mean, I've never been diagnosed with any form of mental illness. And if these are dreams, then they're dreams that I've shared with thousands of other people who've had the exact same dream. And people I've never interacted with and who've never interacted with me. So there's something there.
Okay, well, there's something there, but do you have any proof? Do you have anything you can show us?
Well, I have evidence. I mean, I suppose you could call it proof. Most people try to discredit it. I mean, you know about the implants,
right.
Photographs,
yes,
videos, corroborating witnesses who were there at the time that these incidents happened. I have all of those things.
Oh, in fact, you brought with you an x-ray of your arm, but before we show that, can you just tell us a little bit about what we're going to see?
Yeah, I have discovered like a lump under the skin in my arm.
Well, couldn't that just be a cyst?
Well, that's what I thought it was, but I had Dr. Robert Leonard look at it. He's actually done a lot of research and even surgical removal of these kinds of implants. He was interested in my case because he knew about my particular history.
Right, Dr. Leonard, we've actually researched this doctor. He's totally legitimate. Now, did he want to perform surgery on you?
Yes, he did, but first I wanted to know exactly what this thing was. I mean, it was perfectly round and disc shaped, which is very unusual for a fibroid cyst. So he suggested that I go to a radiologist, have an x-ray.
Okay, and what was found?
Well, first of all, it was perfectly, almost transparent. It almost didn't even show up on the x-ray. But the radiologist said something very strange to me. He asked me when I'd broken my arm, said I must be in a lot of pain. I didn't know what he was talking about. I've never broken a bone in my life.
So he must have seen something in that x-ray that told him this. Can we put up the picture for our audience to see? What are we looking at?
Well, if you look here, you can see how perfectly that bone is broken. I mean, that could not have happened naturally. The only way that could have been done was deliberately.
And what did you tell the radiologist?
Well, when I told the radiologist that I'd never broken a bone before, he got very angry at me. He actually called me a liar. He said if I wasn't going to tell the truth, then we had nothing else to talk about.
Okay, so well, let's get this straight. You've just said you've never broken a bone in your body in your whole life, right?
Right.
Correct? And how do you prove that? How can you prove that there's any like family history? Anybody in your family?
Yes, my mother,
Okay.
medical records. Around the same time, I looked at my arm in bright sunlight. I saw a scar going all the way around it, as if it had been severed at some point and then reattached.
Sure. Yeah, I do that twice a week. It cleans out the blood. Sir, really, see how far-fetched this sounds? This sounds like something from a science fiction television show.
Well, where do you think they get their ideas?
That's a good point.
Look, I'm not alone in this. There are lots of other people who have evidence of surgeries being performed on them that no doctors they know of have done.
And you and the others that have experienced this, other people that have experienced this around the world throughout history, have zero idea, have no idea who or what is doing this to you.
No. All I know is that I have been interacting with an intelligence that is not human. That I share this experience with thousands, maybe millions of other people who have gone through the exact same thing. Credible people from all walks of life. We have videos, photographs, eyewitnesses, physical evidence, and yet we are disregarded by the scientific community, by the government, and by the public. I've been told by more than one scientist that even if we presented proof to them, that they would refuse to believe it. But something is there.
So you're saying thousands of people, millions of people over time, around the world, have experienced this same phenomenon. And yet, how could that many people be experiencing the same delusion, right? I mean, it's not like all these people can be crazy.
Now you're starting to get it. No, they can't be.
I don't get it. We'll be back.
This was hard to do, and it hurt my career, but I felt so strongly that I was a normal human being and I needed to share this. There were so many crazy people out there. I was sure I wasn't one of them.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today to the meeting. I want to introduce a brand new member today, Mark. Say hi to the group. Say hi to Mark. Make him feel welcome.
Hi, Mark.
And Mark, for your first time and all the first-timers, you really don't have to share if you feel uncomfortable. You can ask questions of the group, but if you'd like to share, then we're here for you.
Thank you. It wasn't easy for me to come here today. I've never spoken to anyone other than Yvonne about my experiences. I guess in the back of my mind, in spite of how real all of this has felt to me, I've been hoping that it was all just in my head, not real.
Mark, my name is John. And trust me when I tell you that we've all hoped for that. No matter how hard we try to prove it to ourselves that our experiences are delusional, we've never found it. We are all, for lack of a better word, sane.
I had a secret most of my life. I didn't tell anyone. I had a childhood friend, and one day I was in a bookstore and I saw their face on a book cover. It was entitled Communion. That book changed my life. I could never have known that I was not alone in this experience if I'd not read that book. I'd never met Mr. Strieber or heard anyone else talk of these things. But there it was in his book. And I knew it was just the same experience that I'd had. How could that be possible if there wasn't something out there?
I had the same experience with communion. I suppose all of you did. It's the same story, isn't it? It started out when we were children. We lived our lives with it in secret. Some of us tried to speak out about it. It's never received very well. You can come out of the closet about just about anything right now and you get a pat in the back for it, but come out about this, they want to stone you to death. I'm here because I need to hear your experiences. I'll share mine with you, but suffice to say, I think that you'll find it to be similar, if not identical.
Okay, does anyone like to share your experience at this time with the group?
I have something to share.
Okay, Rob.
It's something I really didn't need Yvonne to put me under hypnosis for, but the hypnosis did help bring out some detail. Nevertheless, it is something that I've always remembered. I was in my early 20s. I was in love with a girl that I met in college, and she moved to UC Davis, which was about an hour away from where I lived in Pacifica. It's a small town down the coast of San Francisco. I used to drive up to see her often, and on one particular night, something happened. It was about 11 p.m. when I left Davis, and I was not tired at all. It was a very short drive, yet somewhere down that stretch of the 101, near San Francisco and the Bay Bridge, I began to grow tired. And then I heard this voice. It kept telling me that I was tired and that I should pull over and get some sleep. I fought it. I fought hard, but I was losing. So I decided to look for an area to pull over, an exit near a dark frontage road. Pulled off, and all I could find was this dirt path. And I was so tired. I thought to myself, just go to sleep for a few hours and you'll be okay. I must have been asleep for a while, but I woke up to bright light shining in my face. And that's when I saw the men.
I soon found out I wasn't alone with these experiences, not by a long shot. I shared exactly the same experience with these people, and I had never met them or talked to them before. I didn't have school today. It was Saturday. I never really liked school. I didn't feel like I fit in there. I felt deeply different. I noticed and wondered about things the other kids didn't. I loved playing in our big backyard. It was a wonderland, covered in growth, bugs, lizards, and more. It was a young boy's paradise with so much to explore. It's our gardener, Mr. Lee. He came here every Saturday to mow the lawns and trim the garden.
Hello, Mark.
He was always fun to talk with. It was hard to tell how old he was, but to me he seemed ancient.
Well, I'm going to trim the overgrowth. Dead leaves and branches can harm plants.
He was wise and knowledgeable, always telling me great stories.
It's important to take care of this garden called Mother Earth. Because if you take care of her, she'll allow the garden to take care of you.
If there was a plant or creature I saw in the backyard, he always knew about it.
Yeah, meet my new friend, Mark. This lizard must have been someone's pet that got lost because he's not indigenous to San Francisco.
Wow, Mr. Lee, he's beautiful. I've seen him before, but I could never catch him. He always runs away so fast.
Well, you don't have to catch him. You can just offer to him. You see, Mark, you're deeply connected to every living thing in your world. And everything's connected to you, never separate. And if you connect to the universe, then all will be yours. Even this little creature can sense your intentions because you're both connected to the same reality. Now, if you only have curiosity and love in your heart, he won't fear you.
Is that why he hopped onto your hand?
That's right. You cannot separate from that which you're a part of. You're special, Mark. You're different. You're aware of so many things inside you and around you that other children are not. But you have to be careful not to speak to others about what we talk about. There will be those that you can talk to, and you'll know who they are one day. You'll just know in your heart.
Years later, when I was an adult, my mother told me we never had a gardener. I always wondered about the men in the car. I'd see them sitting there often. I wondered if it had anything to do with me.
I'm getting a little peckish. What do you say we go for a pizza?
I could go for that. Not that place we went to last time, though.
Yeah, that gave you gas.
Lots of it.
Yeah, and I have to smell it.
Yeah, you picked the place.
My mother told me that they were G-men, that they kept an eye on us because of my step-grandfather. He was a scientist who worked on particle accelerators at Berkeley University. He invented the camera that was the first to photograph the splitting of the atom.
Kid's watching us again. Think he knows?
Hell if I know. He always watches the watchers.
The mother notices us too. So you notice that, huh?
Yeah, the grandfather comes here all the time. This high-level security clearance is the reason why we're here.
My grandfather on my dad's side of the family was different. He told me some amazing stories also. He grew up in Ireland and lived with my grandmother in the countryside of Marin County. I spent many wonderful summers with them. I loved to be there in the country. The night skies were amazing. You could see the Milky Way and 1,000,000 stars from there.
Grandfather, what's that moving star?
I don't know, Mark. But if I had to guess, it might be Sputnik.
Will people go to space, Grandfather?
One day I'm sure they will.
They'll go to the moon. I just know they will. I wish I could go.
You just might one day. The future looks bright, and we're headed fast towards the stars.
What's that red star? Is it a meteor?
I don't know what it is. But it looks like one.
What's happening, Grandfather?
I don't know, Mark.
Is it gonna hurt us?
No, it's not.
Grandfather, what did we see?
I don't know, Mark. It wasn't a meteor. They don't behave like that. I've seen some things, but I just don't know. But it seemed to notice us.
Grandmother, we just saw something outside. It was a huge red ball, and it just hovered over us.
Your grandfather sees all kinds of things, Mark, but I wouldn't take it serious.
No, we saw it.
Oh, you just saw a meteor, Mark, that's all. He's had you seeing something that's not. Next, he'll have you seeing leprechauns. You've seen those before, too. Right, Father? How about the banshees? Or the ghosts? He believes in all that nonsense, Mark.
Oh, knock it off. You always make fun of me. I saw those things. And I saw the red light in the sky, and so did Mark. And I do not believe in the things that I have experienced. I know it. And there is a big difference between believing in something and knowing it.
Well, I guess you told me, you old fool. But don't go making the boy into a fool, too, just because you believe in fantasies. You're a grown man. At your age, for God's sake.
For God's sake, you don't believe in God either.
No, I don't. And don't be telling the boy about God either. Let him grow up first to decide.
They always fought about these things. My grandmother was mean to him. I hated that about her. She was a good person, but she didn't believe in things that went bump in the night. My grandfather told me so many stories of experiences he had in Ireland, but he wasn't just telling stories or tall tales. He really did have these experiences. You could see the look of fear in his eyes when he told them to me.
Mark, there are people who experience things that they just don't want to talk about. It's true that I saw those things, and the story I'm about to tell you is real. It happened. And as for God, well, your grandmother's right about that one. You'll have to decide for yourself. I could tell you, but something is there. When I was a young man in Ireland, I was taking my mother home at night, as I often did, from town. We were in one of those horse-drawn carriages. And as the horse was pulling the carriage down the road, we approached the old churchyard. Now, I'd passed this churchyard many times before, but tonight something was different. As we got closer to the churchyard, the horse began to protest. It began to cry and resist my commands. And as we got closer to the church itself, the horse began to buck. Something in that churchyard was frightening it. We stopped. I got out of the carriage to investigate what the commotion was all about. I could just see through the trees into the churchyard. The church was very old. It was made of stone, and it was L-shaped. And the two walls would meet in a corner. And sitting on the ledge was a man. I could barely make him out through the trees, so I entered the churchyard and slowly began to approach him. As I got closer, I could see his trench coat and his brimmed hat. Upon later reflection, the strangeness of all this occurred to me because people at the turn of the century did not wear trench coats and brimmed 1940s-styled hats. Are you all right? Can I help you? He looked up at me. Those eyes. He looked like the devil himself. I ran to the carriage as fast as I could and got home as quickly as possible. I will never know what I saw that night. The devil, a ghost, a demon. But it scared me to death, and I will never forget it.
This story really grabbed me, remembering it years later as an adult. By this point, I knew about the cloven feet, as described by my grandfather. I'd seen them myself one late night in my kitchen. I knew my grandfather was telling the truth. He wasn't crazy. Either way, he knew his own experience as I did mine. Years later, my close friend Whitley Strieber would tell me about the cloven feet. But my grandfather thought they were devils. It was the only sense he could make out of it in those times, but today, I don't think so. And then it happened. I saw the face my grandfather saw all those years ago looking right at me. Who were they? What did they want? As I would lie in bed listening to my mother playing the piano, as she did nearly every night, I know now why I felt different. Every night when I went to bed, I never knew what to expect. It was October 2017, and I was outside on the phone talking to my old friend Whitley when something amazing happened, something that came without warning. At first, I thought I was seeing an owl,
illuminated by the city lights, but as I watched it, it became apparent it wasn't an owl. As it flew over me, I was overwhelmed with emotion, and I described it to Whitley. As it disappeared into the night, I felt something inside. I didn't hear it. It was almost as if I could see it. A message came to me. Something that's there continues my amazing journey into the stars. There's still hope. Don't give up.
The message Mark received from the visitors is true. There is still much hope. The people that know this won't ever give up. We can't. As we look into our children's eyes, we can see that hope. It's up to us to secure their future. Is this one of the reasons the visitors are in our lives? Maybe. We have separated from true reality, the very reality that connects us with the earth and the stars from which we were born. We are truly lost among the stars, and someone or something is trying to show us the way. In our next episode, Mark discovers that nothing ever truly dies. He finds that we are part of a reality that knows no death, and that our dreams are more than just dreams. They are gateways to other worlds. Join us next time in The Dream Time.